Hello, my dear students. We have an introduction to English literature course. Today we deal with 20th century novels and other prose. Ian Forster, working at very much the same time, this first novel, Where Angels Fear to Tread, was published in 1905, takes a completely different view of the values which formed and governed British society at that time, and in which the British Empire was based. Howard's End, 1910, shows the completely different beliefs of two families: the Wilcoxes, who are good at making money and who are concerned only with everything that they can see and touch, and the two Schlegel sisters, who are concerned with deeper, more spiritual and cultural values. Like Kipling, Forster spent some time in India, but his view of the country seen in A Passage to India, 1924, is very different. He shows most of the English who governed India at that time as the same sort of people as the Wilkses, and in Howard's End, busy with traditional ways of behaving and appearance of things and people, and unable to see the inner truth of events. The H. Lawrence view of the writer's purpose was very different. He felt it was the novelist's job to show how an individual's view of his own personality was often affected by conventions of language, family, and religion, and to show how people and their relationships with each other were always changing and moving. He took the form of the traditional loving and made it wider and deeper. Much of Sons and Lovers, 1913, is taken from his own early life as hero Paul Morrell grows up near Nottingham in the English Midlands as Lawrence did, and also wants to be a creative artist. The center of the novel is that he is the relationship between Paul and his mother. He loves her and needs her. Help him make sense of the world around him. But in order to become an independent man and a true artist, he has to make his own decisions about his life and work, and has to struggle to become free from her influence. Like Forster's characters, Paul Morrell needs to put the outer and inner world together in a true relation. Lawrence um, shows how the daily life of his characters influences them. Paul's father is affected by his life as a minor, and Mariam, one of the women Paul loves, is influenced by her life on the farm, but he is also concerned to express the inner qualities of a human nature. This is often done through a description of nature. When Marianne watches a sunset with Paul, Lawrence's description gives the story of their relationship. James Joyce was born and educated in Ireland and spent most of his adult life in Europe, mainly in France, Italy, and Switzerland. His first short stories, published as Dubliners 1914, are realistic on the surface, but also carry a deeper meaning. The dead in which a husband is shocked out of his self-satisfaction by discovering his wife's love for a dead man she knew many years before, is the most notable. A portrait of the artist as a young man, 1916, presents Joyce himself as a young man in the character of his um, hero, Stephen Dedalus, who is forced by the powerful forces of Irish national, political, religious feelings, and shows how he gradually frees himself from the influence of those fact forces to follow his own nature and his own fate. Virginia Woolf was also attempting to explore the consciousness of her characters, but she was not attempting to deal with so many types of people and in situations as Joyce was. Mrs. Dalloway, 1924, gives a description of one day in June 1923 as it was experienced by Mrs. Dalloway and other characters. To the Lighthouse, 1927, begins by presenting a family on holiday in Scotland in September 1910. The youngest son, James Ramsay, wants very much to go by boat to the lighthouse, but is prevented by his father, and the novel ends with the same family in the same house 10 years later. James at last goes to the lighthouse, but this time he hates his father for making him go, as much as he earlier hated him for preventing it. The novel presents two kinds of truth: Mr. Dalloway's, which is the truth of facts that can be proved, and Mrs. Ramsay's, which is an attempt to find the truth that lies beyond the facts.